All right, folks, we're going to just open it right up to questions. We'll open it up front row left. Nathan.
What's the most important thing that Jeff Okudah brings to this team?
I don't think there's one thing that he brings other than that he's so well-rounded. He helps us day in and day out in a lot of areas. First off, he's a tremendous player, but he takes his job very, very serious. And this is another guy in his third year who's matured to a level where, I mean, a lot of guys on our team look up to him and the way he approaches day in and day out. He's playing at a high level. He's playing with great energy. And just seeing the way he was running the ball after watching the film and throwing his body in there last week goes to show you his buy-in. And I think he's playing at a tremendous level.
Right next, front row left, Mitch.
Ryan, what does it bring to a defense to have a guy like Chase Young, who that the other team is afraid of, they have to account for on every play? How does that benefit the rest of the team, offense and defense?
Yeah, I mean, having a player like Chase play the way he has clearly changes the game and makes everybody on that defense better because you have to account for him on every play. But that's only good if he plays that way, and he is. And we all know his potential and what he's done. But I thought his intensity and the way he approached that game was special. You could tell he played with a chip on his shoulder. But that's only good if he keeps continuing to play that way. And I think that's why you got to give him credit week in and week out. He's played the same way. He's been consistent. He's been tough. He's been productive. But now we're into the teeth of this thing, and he's going to have to continue to play that way because now he's got the biggest bullseye he's ever had in his chest, and that's going to be tough going down the stretch.
The Bosa brothers used to talk about the first step and all that. What is he? Why is he so good at what he does?
That's not just one thing. It's a lot of things. He's first off, he's gifted. He's got good size, good length, toughness. His technique that he's worked on with Larry Johnson is off the charts right now in terms of his hand placement. But it's all the other things to me. It's the leadership. It's the toughness. It's his motor. Its ability to play several plays. It's the work he's putting in. He came in early last week talking about how much film work he had put in early in the week. Identifying some of the blocking schemes, what was going on. I mean, that's the stuff that pros are made of and great players are made of. And he just got to continue to prepare the same this week because if he does, he's going to continue to get better, and it just helps our whole defense.
Second row middle, Bruce.
I don't know what adjective you want to put on this, dumb, unwise, or whatever. I'm wondering, what's the one thing you've done in coaching you'd look back on and you go, oh, I wasn't very smart, and what'd you learn from that lesson? If you did something, and what did you learn from it?
I mean, there's a lot. Boy, I mean, where do I start? Because in life, you either succeed or you fail, and then you learn. And I've made as many mistakes as anybody throughout my career, and learned a lot from players, learned a lot from mistakes, just in handling players, handling families, handling kids, handling recruits, and then there's the schematics, obviously, going into a game. Not being prepared, not having the answers to your. There's a certain level of responsibility you have as a coach to make sure you have answers for your players when it comes down to it, and that's our job as a staff to make sure that we're doing our part here and that we have answers during the game and we're putting the guys in the right places and they're being put in a situation where they can be successful. And I've made so many mistakes. I'm going to continue to make mistakes. I made mistakes on Saturday, and but as long as you learn from them, just like the players, then you got a chance.
I just wondered schematically if there's a game you look back on and go, I lost us that game, or I feel like I lost us that game. Not here, but
right in general. I mean, I think it's always a team effort, but certainly when you don't win a game, it's not good enough. You look back and you try to figure out, how you could have done things better, or had a call back here and there, and that's the case every week. They're good calls when they work, and then you call them and they don't work, and that's not a good call. But that's just how it works. But no, I mean you assess it week in and week out, but it's always a team effort. Whether you're doing well or you're struggling, it's always everybody involved, especially in football when it's such a team sport.
Right in front, Dave.
Ryan, you guys are getting a lot of good presses, I'm sure you know. Nick Saban once referred to that as rat poison. How do you guard against that? Like, what are you telling your guys? I'm sure they are hearing these good things about the team, personal accolades. Just how do you guard against that?
Well, I just think all it means is that you have a lot more to lose if you let it get away from you, and that's it. And the more this builds, the more we have to lose. So we're not going to get anxious about that or anything like that. But at the same time, we also know that we got a bigger bullseye on our chest week in and week out. We have to work harder and harder, and we're more and more invested every week. But I think this has been something we've been talking about for a long time. We expected to be in this situation, and now we have to act accordingly. And what that means is just staying locked in, week out on this game, preparing the same way, playing with the same energy, playing together, taking care of the football, tackling well, playing tough. If we do that, then we're going to have a chance week in and week out. If we don't, then we're going to put ourselves at risk. And that's really what it comes down to. And trying to help 18, 19, 20-year-old kids understand that this is a great opportunity and that these opportunities don't come around but a few times in a lifetime. And you have to capture those moments and what are you willing to sacrifice to go achieve those goals. And so that'll be the things we talk about this week.
I want to ask you real quick about running back recruiting. When you look at the lineage of running backs here, from Archie to Zeke, everybody else, Keith Byers, Tim Spencer, everybody, J.K., what he's doing. And even last year when you guys set passing records for this school, J.K. went over 1,000 yards. Mike Weber almost did. Are you surprised? I know you can't name specific guys. Are you surprised that running back recruiting is not where you want it for the 2020 class? And are you confident you'll finish strong?
I think we will. I think we'll be fine there. J.K.'s having one heck of a year, and I think if you're a running back throughout the country in the United States and you're seeing the history of running backs at Ohio State and what we're doing this year and what we've done in the past, I think you'd be foolish not to give Ohio State a hard look. And we're really confident with some of the guys we're recruiting right now, and there's a long way to December and then February, so we feel strong. We also feel really good about the guys we have in the room right now, and I think it's all going to work out.
Third row, left, Dan.
Ryan, Justin obviously got a little banged up on Saturday. You've had guys like Thayer and Damon Arnett who are playing through some injuries as well. As you get into this point of the year, do you have to be careful about managing the amount of reps for those guys to make sure they stay healthy for the home stretch?
We always do. We always really take the amount of reps serious and really handle that. And it's very sensitive, and so that's one of the things we have to make sure we're doing a good job of down the stretch as well. But injuries are part of the game. This time of year, guys are going to be banged around, and it's a tough game. And so we certainly won't be foolish with that, though. We'll make sure that we really think through every rep and make sure that we're putting the guys in the right situations, the reps that they need to practice, because they can't get into bad habits either. And one of the reasons why I think we've been playing so well is we're practicing so hard, and we have to continue to do that. But to your point, as it gets later in the season, we've got to be smart.
You've had the opportunity in just about every game this year to get some of those second-team guys into the game at one point or another. How valuable is that coming into the home stretch, that those guys have had the opportunity to play in almost every game?
I think it's really important because I think what you have with some of those guys, where you could be at this point of the year and a guy goes down or a guy is out in the game and you have to put a guy in, you don't even know what you have, and so I think we have a good feeling of where everybody's at in our team. It's almost 3 deep because those guys have got so many reps in games.
Far left, Matt.
You have 3 guys now that are Chase and Justin and J.K. that are legitimately being talked about for the Heisman Trophy. I know you even got asked on Fox after the game about Chase. Do you relish that, enjoy that? You got 3 guys in that. Is there part of you that's like, because, like Coach Meyer a lot of times would be like, boy, it's too much too soon to talk about that. I don't know. Having guys like that are in the conversation right now, how do you embrace that? What is your take?
Yeah, no, I think when you're at Ohio State, this is what the norm should be, and it always has been, and it hopefully always will be. In that you come to Ohio State and you're a tailback, you're a quarterback. I mean, you should be in the Heisman Trophy conversation. Now for Chase, that's a different deal, and he's obviously a special player, and hats off to him to even be brought up in something like this. But I think if you ask those guys, they'll tell you that they're not worried about individual accolades at all. It's all about a singular goal, and that's winning championships. And if we do, then I think there's going to be a lot of those things to go around, because that wasn't one of our goals. I don't think you'd ask J.K. Dobbins or Justin or even Chase, hey, what was your goal at the beginning of the season? Win the Heisman? No, that would not have been their answer. I'd be shocked if it was. And so if we just continue to do well and continue on the path we're on, there's going to be a lot to go around and a lot of accolades and awards and things like that. But that's not what it comes down to. This is about the team, and I think one of the things that is good is we talked about big time players playing well in big time games, and I thought our big time players did step up in the game, which was great to see.
Yeah, there's a lot of discussion too about who's number 1 right now. Do you care at this stage? Like the AP voting is as close as it's ever been. You got the playoff poll coming out in about a week. What is your take on where you are, and
it'll
being
matter.
number 1 important?
It will be at the end of the season, but right now, I mean, if you're number 1 right now and you lose next week, you're not number 1 anymore. So it doesn't. I mean, that's for everybody else to talk about. That has nothing to do with us right now. It doesn't mean anything. You don't get anything for being number 1, 2, or 3 at this point of the year. You get it for the end of the season. So, I know that people like to talk about it, and that's great. That's good. That's great for college football, but has nothing to do with us.
Right behind it, Laura.
How would you describe the leadership style of Chase Young and J.K. Dobbins? Because as great as leaders that they've been, they don't seem like they in all ways fit the traditional mold of a leader.
Yeah, and I try not to, when I talk to the guys about leadership, it's never about fitting a style, because I think everybody finds their own voice and everybody has their own leadership style, and I think that's the art of being a leader is being authentic and being yourself. And I think those guys have found their voice. It's taken them 3 years to find that voice, but it's great. I think in today's day and age of the internet and being on your phones and that type of stuff with this generation, stepping out in front of a team is a little frightening for again, 19, 20-year-old kids. And so these guys have stepped up and they've put themselves out there. They have the courage to do it, and they're backing it up with their play. And I think it's great for a lot of guys to see. But there's been a precedent set. I mean, Terry McLaurin comes back and speaks to our team Friday night before the game, and the culture he left and the legacy he left behind was special. And I think there's guys on our team who want to leave a legacy. They don't just want to leave a bunch of stats behind. They want to leave a legacy. When they walk out the door, they're still talking about these guys down the road. How do you do that with leadership, with getting out in front and talking and making sure that you're leaving an impact?
So how would you describe Chase Young's voice and J.K. Dobbins'
Chase is very intense. He's very confident in what he does, and if he sees something, he's going to call it out. I think he's a strong leader. J.K. is kind of the same way, but he's a little bit more by example. But when it gets closer to the game, you start to feel him and hear him in the locker room, and they both are very intense, especially as it gets closer to the game.
Down in front right, Tim.
Yeah, Ryan, when you look at Justin Hilliard and the path he's taken, how crazy is it now that he is like basically a contributor big time? And how tough has that path been from what because you've been watching now for 3 years, but what is he bringing to the fore now? And is that an example of a bonus that this team is getting from some of the upperclassmen?
Yeah, I think Justin Hilliard is the story of him playing the way he played and being able to step up in a game like that and help us is a story that really isn't being told for whatever reason. But this is, like you said, a guy with today's day and age, with everything going on with portals and everything else, he stuck through it. He worked through injuries. He worked through playing time issues, and then he steps up in a huge moment for us, to beat Wisconsin, and plays really well, makes some big-time tackles, and that goes to show you what kind of a kid Justin Hilliard is. I mean, he's got character, he's got perseverance, everything about him is great, and he's helped us on special teams for years, but now he's able to step up into that role and make those kind of plays for the team. That's a guy who's leaving the legacy behind, and that's about hard work and working through tough times. And we're just really happy to have him part of this team.
And one other quick thing, if you watched the game, of course, but Devon Hamilton, Wisconsin had reputedly maybe the best center in college football, some people said. Devon Hamilton seemed to have a game Saturday, so did Jay-Sean Cornell. What has Devon Hamilton really brought to the fore here this season?
It started in the offseason. I thought he had one of the best off seasons of anybody in the program. He really took a step in this offseason in the weight room with Coach Jay, just in general, and you could see him coming. He started to get a voice. I mean, he's been in front of the team, and that's not easy for Devon. But I'm really proud of the way he's playing. I mean, he's strong in there. You can see the first play of the game. He's knocking the guys back, and he was really powerful in there. And that's a huge deal, especially against a team like that. But this is a guy, he's a veteran guy now who's a huge part of our defense.
Right next door, Austin.
Ryan, would you give any thought to playing Chase on offense to give him a Mike Vrabel touchdown or something like that?
It sounds fun, but we're not going to take any risks with Chase. No, we're not going to do that.
When you look at, you were asked earlier about the Heisman candidates, and most programs want one. You guys have potentially three. I know you don't want distractions and all that. Will you talk about it? How do you manage that when you probably don't want to pick one over the other, give any preference?
Well, if you lose a game, that all goes out the window. Nobody's talking about anybody. So it's all about if we win or not. And you hate to sound like that, but it's just the facts. So if we want to continually, get this type of momentum and keep the momentum going, we have to continue to do what we're doing. And that's just the reality of it. So the guys need to embrace that and understand that and have the maturity to put that aside and ignore that stuff and just stay focused on the task at hand.
If you had any of those off-date conversations with those three? Would the word Heisman even come up in those?
No, no, and I don't think that they would be talking about themselves like that either, because again, it's a great honor and all that stuff, but that's so far down the road right now that we're not talking about that kind of thing.
Second row middle, Tony?
Ryan, Master Teague, almost kind of on pace for 1,000 yards this year. Gets a lot of his yardage when the defense knows he's going to be getting the ball. So how tough is that? The yards that he gets, how tough does that make him? What kind of luxury is that for you, knowing that at the end he can just salt things away?
It's huge. It's really big, especially in that game right there where we put the second group out there on defense, got a stop, and then I think we got it back with, was it 5 minutes to go? And then we ended up taking a knee at the end. I mean, that's huge for our team, and that's a 4-minute drill, and that was with our twos in there. So I think it's a combination of things. I think when he's been in there, it's been late in the game. It's been a change of pace. Maybe the defense is a little bit tired. He's fresh. He's strong. He's powerful. But our line's been doing a really good job late in the game. And then even in that game in the week before, our second group has gone out there and got really good movement. And the first play of the game, we were on a power play, and our center and guard get great movement. Guard pulls around, and we get him to the secondary right now. And I think he actually wished he had that run back, because he was on a safety at 10 yards and ended up getting 20 on it, but probably could have hit a home run on it. But I think it's a combination of all those things.
Will you guys be pursuing a 6th year for Justin Hilliard? Do you know?
That's going to be up to Justin, to talk about. I don't think he's really focused on any of that right now, but certainly at the end of the season, if that's something he's interested in, then we can talk about it.
Front row left, Doug?
Ryan, you were asked about reps earlier, specifically at quarterback. Do you want to do anything in practice to give Justin any kind of rests in practice or keep him fresh? And what do you guys do? Does Chug get reps with the ones very often to keep him ready, and you need him for a play on Saturday?
Yeah, we usually don't have him take many reps with the ones. If we go 7-on-7 or some sort of other segmented group, then those guys will roll, and so whoever they end up with, they end up with. When we go to scouts, the receivers will pretty much roll when we're doing some past stuff, but for the most part, Justin's in there with the first group. Chugs will get some reps during the week, though, but very few with the ones. We like to, for his few amount of reps that Justin has had in his career, we wanted to get as many as we can in practice and making sure that he's ready to go. So that's what's hard about being a backup, is you have to be ready to go. You have to, with limited reps with the ones, you have to be able to go out there and function. And we put Chugs in there. It was 2nd and long. We tried to screen. The guard kind of sniffed it out. I thought he did a good job of throwing it away. We ended up getting a holding call, but that wasn't his fault. I thought he made a good decision. That was a tough situation to get thrown into. I thought they'd be kind of coming over the walls. We could get him on a screen, but didn't work out that way. I thought he managed it well.
When we saw Justin, we talked about him toughing it out in that game. How do you adjust in the middle of the game if you see that your quarterback is feeling something a little bit? Do you think to yourself, man, we can't run him anymore, but also you needed him on some runs on Saturday and you used him? How do you balance, if you see your quarterback taking some hits, how does that maybe change your play calling mid-game?
Now, we talked about it going into the game, and I said, Justin, you're going to have to, with the rain and everything going on with this defense, you're going to have to run a little bit in this game, and he was all for it. He was awesome, and he was ready to go. His attitude was excellent going into it, and he ran tough early in the game. He took some shots, but he got us going, and I was really proud of him. Then one time he got banged up a little bit. I asked him, I said, what do you think? He said, I'll be fine. I'm hurting, but I'll be all right. And it wasn't anything long term. It was just, one of those things he took a shot there and landed on it funny, but he's going to be fine. But it was, certainly one of those things you have to, as you start to, have more experience with a quarterback, you have to be able to trust him. And he's tough. He's gritty. He said, if you need me to run, I'll run. Now, we didn't really run much with him after that, but he said he was willing to run. And it just goes to show you how tough he is. And I keep saying that, but the more I'm around him, the more I really respect how tough he is.
And we've covered this ground before, but it's just the way Chase is playing, the way Nick Bosa is playing in the NFL. Like, if you could have had those two healthy guys on the field together for all of last year, what would that have looked like? A healthy Nick Bosa and a healthy Chase Young?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, certainly they're two of the more talented guys that have probably ever gone through here and maybe ever play the game. I mean, they're very, very talented, and I don't try not to play the what-if game, but certainly, respect both of those guys, and they're both dominant players.
Right behind Bill.
Ryan, you
You guys were the most penalized team in the country last year. Now you're among the least penalized teams, and I think you cut your penalties per game in half. How much did that occupy your thoughts when you first took over, and how did you approach, improving in that area in the offseason leading into this year?
Yeah, we put some different things in, but it really goes back to our guys and how much discipline they have. But we did certain things where if guys would jump off sides or the ball would get loose, we'd have them run a lap. It sounds juvenile, but it's real, and we had consequences for that. We continue to still do that, but at the end of the day, it comes down to their discipline. And we talked about in this kind of a game, you have to be clean because with the way they control the ball, you get off schedule with different things, you're going to get yourself jammed up with penalties, and then you have to do well on third down. And I thought Justin had a 3rd and 10, a 3rd and 10, and a 3rd and 13 that we converted on third down. That was huge. I mean, I would say on offense, that was kind of the huge deal for us. He had 2 scrambles, I think, to J.K., and then the long one to Chris at the end of the half, and that was huge for us. But because we weren't really on schedule early on, and then as the game went on, I thought we got ourselves on schedule, got into some third and manageables, and then we kind of got in a rhythm.
With penalties, how much control do you ultimately feel like you have as a coach once the guys get out there between the lines? And
Zero. I mean, yeah. I mean, it's all about what you've done leading up, just like all the work that's done early in the week. That's where you feel the most stress. And, we do ball security stuff. We do different, we talk about penalties, but, and if we see things on film, we'll obviously address it. And we try to stay as clean as we can and talk about those type of things. But at the end of the day, it comes down to the discipline of the team to make sure that they, and sometimes it's just late hits, taking a shot at somebody. I mean, there was a couple chances we had to take a couple blocks at guys, whether it was the Garrett's return or the fumble recovery, and we didn't push somebody in the back. Those kind of things. How do you coach that kind of stuff? Well, you talk about it at meetings the best you can. You coach it off the film, but it's the player's responsibility to play with discipline, and I think they're doing that right now. So we just got to keep that rolling.
there were maybe the area where you were most penalized last year was on the offensive line with procedural stuff and holding stuff. Is there anything to the idea that you were just a heavy pass team and maybe you may be a little more susceptible to that because guys are worried about not getting beat or you're just pass blocking, maybe you're more prone to holding a pass?
No, I don't think it was that. I think there was more to it than that, and we addressed some of those things, and I think we've done much better with that this year.
Right next door. All right.
So Sharp Blazer, Ryan, is that like a recruiting Blazer?
No,
By
it's
week
not
or-
recruited. No, just the Blazer.
I was just wondering, when you're in a situation right now where you have 2 bye weeks in a month period, your recruiting class is already basically full for 2020. During a week like this, when recruiting is a huge emphasis, your guys are out on the road and all that stuff. What do you do? Are you trying to get ahead for 2021? And if you are, how big of an advantage of it? Are you trying to close bit? Like, what is this week's emphasis?
It's a lot. I think that we want to make sure we try to get out to see as many guys as we possibly can, committed, uncommitted, like you said, 2020, 2021, and get around to just be around the programs. But then also reach out and just continue to do a great job recruiting Ohio. I was in Ohio yesterday and making sure I tried to get as many schools as I possibly could, even though there was a fog delay getting out of here in Columbus, so didn't get to as many as I wanted to, but still, buzzed around. And I think that it's important for us to make sure that we're continuing those relationships, especially in Ohio and the Midwest. And then as we go out and recruit nationally, we're able to get out there and see those guys on a bye week.
How many did you make it to yesterday?
I forget. I think 7.
And one other non-related thing. Garrett Wilson had a pretty nice punt return. I know you guys are always looking for a spark in the return game. Is Garrett progressing the way you hoped he would, and in terms of a spark, both on offense and in the return game? Is he somebody that you think could have that like Olave-like effect like he had last year where, freshman is in the program and in the season for a few months, and then at the end when you guys need a play, he might be somebody you guys might rely on?
Yeah. I think that it's very hard to step in as a true freshman and make an impact right off the bat. I think it takes a little time. You learn about the system. You learn about how to practice. You learn about all those things. And so I think as the season's gone on, he's gotten better. I thought he flashed a little bit in the Northwestern game. He got some targets in this game, got the big return. So, like you said, I think the second half of this season is going to be good for him.
Where are you guys at with the punt returner? Are you still?
Yeah, still kind of where we are, but Garrett certainly, I think when you look at what he's done in the last few returns, he's making a strong move to be the starter.
Fourth row left, Andy.
Yeah, Coach. Whether it was Chase Young or Devon Hamilton, the defensive line held one of the best backs in the country to 52 yards, recorded 5 sacks against an offensive line that's usually one of the best in the country. Just what is the ceiling for that group, and where do they go from here?
I don't know what the ceiling is, but they're going to continue to do what they've done, and that's, look at the opponent that week, figure out how they're going to attack them, play with and practice with great energy, great toughness. We're gonna play a lot of guys. That's the other thing that's really good about that group is we're pretty deep. Had to play depth because we've had a few guys dinged up throughout the season, and again, they're still the tip of the spear of the defense. And when we can win the line of scrimmage, we've got a chance against anybody. And so I think when you combine their ability to stop their run and the pass rush, that makes them pretty versatile.
Third row right, Rob.
General Heisman question. Only one true defensive player is one. You're a quarterback at heart. We all know that. What would be the challenge? You're a Heisman voter, let's say. What's the challenge of voting for a defensive guy? What goes on with that from your perspective?
I'm not a voter, and I have not thought about it all that much, but I do think that there's been a history of offensive guys getting it. So I think you'd have to almost change the mindset a little bit of what you're voting for. Are you voting for the most production? Are you voting for the best player? Are you voting for the most valuable player? I don't know, but I know that Chase is, if he's not the most dominant player in college football right now, then he's close. But it's only going to be that way if he continues to play that. So we got 4 more games in a regular season here, and he's got to continue to play at that level and make some voters think. But again, if you were talking to Chase, I don't think he has any interest in all that. And I think just being considered and just being brought up in that conversation, much respect.
What would be your classification? It seems like it should be best player. It's what it's been, not MVP. Because on this team, you could argue it's a different guy than Chase. Do you think it should be best player or most important to his team? What's the Heisman to you?
Yeah, I think it's the best player, and there's a lot that goes into that. But I think it's the best player, not so much the most valuable or anything like that, because I think there's so many different variables in college football. It's not like the NFL where everybody has the same set of rules and same set of everything. It's very, very different. So I think it should go to the best player.
The quarterback touch the ball that many times. Is that just built-in advantage right there?
I think so. I think over the years that's what's happened, but that doesn't necessarily mean that's where the award should go.
Could you use another Heisman question? Could you use this moment or this month as a huge recruiting tool, though you wouldn't promote one over the other, promoting all 3? And has there been any discussion about a plan? Because historically, the school hasn't done that because they're on enough. I think they felt like everybody had eyeballs on Ohio State.
Well, I think when you're at Ohio State, you're right in the limelight of all of college football. So like you said, I think there's enough spotlight on our guys right now, and I think everyone knows that. I think in recruiting, it's going as good as it could possibly go. I think that the culture that we've created since January is off the charts, and people are very, very excited about that. And I think, getting to this point in the season and playing the way we have, I think is a credit to everybody inside the program and the excitement around the program. And I think, when you do things like this at a place like Ohio State, you're going to have opportunities like this. You're going to have Heisman Trophy candidates. You're going to have All-Americans. You're going to be in the national championship conversation, and you're going to be relevant in November. And that's just part of this job. It's part of being at Ohio State, and I think that's why people want to come here anyways. So I don't think this is anything out of the norm or anything new. It's part of what we talk about in recruiting year-round. But here we are.
It's not a distraction, because you've talked a lot this year about the noise and
Yeah, it can be. It can be, but it's all about what our focus is, and something we've been talking about for a long time. And we knew, it's like being in any other place in the country that's undefeated at this point of the season. There's going to be a lot of people talking about you, but that's why you come here. And if you can't handle that, then you shouldn't be at Ohio State.
Third row right, Dylan. You've talked so much about your team being built on toughness more than anything else. How do you evaluate your team's toughness and what you've seen through 8 weeks?
I thought we played with toughness on Saturday. Yeah, again, it doesn't matter if we don't come out and play with toughness next week, but to handle the elements the way we did, I thought that the rain and the whole situation was kind of lining up a little bit to play towards Wisconsin's strengths. And so we just had to say that doesn't matter to us. How tough can we possibly play? Can you handle the elements? Both teams have to play with it. We got to win the line of scrimmage. We got to do a great job on third down. We got to score touchdowns in the red zone, and that was our focus. And then we had adversity. In the third quarter, we we get that punt block, they score, here we go, we're in a 3-point game, and then at that point, I mean, that's kind of the first time where I really felt like our team was backs up against the wall, and we go right down the field and score, and then from then on, I kind of thought we dominated the game, and so it was good to get that feeling of, okay, here we go, boys, now where are we at? Where was this team really at? And the response was solid.
Last few questions, front row right, Bill?
Yeah, following up a little bit on what Dave asked earlier about handling the success. You've got an off week this week, and then you've got two opponents that you're going to be huge favorites against. How important is this stretch for you and your team to not kind of buy into the hype, to stay focused, and not get distracted by any of this?
Yeah, I mean, of course, it's important to stay focused right now, and you know, if they're reading the hype, if they're reading all that stuff, then they're more foolish than I thought they would be. I don't think our guys are going to do that. I think that we're just going to work every day to get better. I mean, it's the same people that picked us, you know, I don't know if we were 4th, 5th, or wherever we were in the Big Ten East, you know, and so that didn't matter at that point. It's not going to matter anymore. That doesn't matter to the game on Saturday, and so as long as we just focus on that, we'll be fine.
And you obviously watch the tape closer than anyone. When you look at both your strengths and your flaws, and I'm sure there are flaws, what are the flaws that kind of stand out to you and say, okay, if we want to get to where we got to go, we have to fix this and this?
There's not one like major flaw, you know. I mean, I think there's a lot of little things that we need to work on and clean up and do a better job of for sure. I mean, watching the film, especially on offense, I mean, that first half, there's a lot of things to clean up. And but it isn't just one thing. Like, you know, if you're asking me what are the, like 1 or 2 things we need to focus on, it's not that. It's just a lot of little things that we certainly need to tighten up.
Front row right, Joey?
Just to circle back to Davon Hamilton, he's somebody who's been in the program a while, is now starting full-time as a fifth-year senior. What's the challenge for somebody who comes here and maybe has to kind of wait a while to finally get on the field?
Yeah, everybody has their own journey, and you can't compare your journey to anyone else's in recruiting, and you can't compare your journey to anyone else in your career in college or the NFL if that's, you know, where you want to go, because everybody's on their own path. And I think what happens is sometimes guys say, well, they see somebody playing early or whatever that is, you know, that wasn't the path for Terry McLaurin, and look what he's doing right now. You know, everybody has their own journey, and I think Devon's journey's been awesome for him because he needed to develop in certain areas, and he has. And so if guys just believe in that, believe in the program, believe in getting developed, eventually it'll work for them. But you know, it isn't all going to happen at once for some guys. Some guys, you know, they're a little bit more ready for whatever the reasons are, and they play a little bit earlier in their career. But Devon's a great example of somebody who's developed over time and become a really big-time player.
What were some of those areas of development? I imagine nose tackle is probably a hard thing to plug in my freshman and sophomore guy.
Yeah, size, you know, your body, your technique, you know, pad level, all those things.
And final questions, far left, Chuck?
Yeah, varying off Rob's question, as we look back across it, and the country's given Heisman's to offensive players a ratio of 80 to 1. So does that strike you as, I don't know, skewed or inappropriate or anything like that? Or you know, or maybe you have some old quarterback bias is that just, do you think?
I just think it's the way that the game is played, and there's only one football, and the guy who touches the football the most probably gets the most action. So that's probably why it's been the quarterback over the years. But it's hard to be as dominant on defense as it is on offense at times, and so that's probably more the case. Yeah.
Coach, thank you very much.
Thanks, Ryan.